Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you're looking to get more sales, more customers, master your marketing, and ultimately take control of your retail or e-commerce business, then you're in the right place. I'm Selena Knight, a retail growth strategist and multi-award-winning store owner whose superpower is uncovering exactly what your business requires to move to the next level. I'll provide you with the strategies, the tools, and the insight you need to scale your store. All you need to do is take action. Ready to get started? Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Now, I don't know about you, but Google Ads don't seem anywhere as intuitive as the Meta platform. Now, I know that the Meta platform is kind of a bit tricky when you jump in, but honestly, even still to this day, Google Ads freak me out. I never quite understand what I'm supposed to be doing, which is why I have people who do that kind of stuff for me. But today we are going to bust a whole bunch of myths out the door when it comes to Google Ads and how you can sometimes be, I'm going to say, taken advantage of when it comes to agencies. So some things to look out for if you're going to look at outsourcing this, but also some of the great results that retail and e-commerce store owners can see if they're using ads. And today, Raj from Web Eagles is going to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show, Raj.
Hi, Selena. How are you?
Good. We have had so much fun talking about some of these cases, like use cases, case studies that you guys have been working on when it comes to e-commerce. And I have to say, some of these numbers are like, if I, as a business owner, if an agency was bringing this to me, I am super excited. 10x ROAS, 20x ROAS. What are the secrets?
So the secret is to really understand the market, understand the business, and understand what they're trying to achieve. Obviously, with e-commerce, you're trying to drive more sales, but the secret is trying to find those customers that are searching for those products and then connecting them with that online store. Basically, that's all you have to do. How you get there is the science behind it.
Well, I guess that's the hard part, isn't it? Like it's the results and the end, the end goal is what we all want, but it's the getting there that trips us up quite a bit. So tell me a little bit about, I know we were just talking before we jumped on about a motorsports. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that what I'm not in the world of bikes and motorcycles and cross country. So if I've called it the wrong thing, I apologize. But tell us a little bit about.
Neither am I. So.
Tell us about the e-commerce store that you worked with, because those results are just like one of many that I really want to dig into and see how you managed to get them from where they were to where they are, because that's what everybody listening here wants to know. How do I get from where I am now to where I want to be?
Yeah, so this was an old friend of mine from school. I've known him for over 30 years, shows my age. But he came to me because he knew this was my game, and he had a business where they sold engines and car parts to sort of enthusiasts, so people that are doing DIY, they're building their own motors, they're souping up their cars.
That's my brother-in-law. He has had like a car of many descriptions in his garage for as long as he's been married to my sister, which is 20 years, and it always infuriates her. So I can see who your target market would be.
That's it. And there's so much money in it. But honestly, Selena, we're in the wrong industry.
I know. Like when you find out the parts that go into the car are worth more than the car if he went to sell it.
That's right. That's exactly right. So they had an online store, very basic. It was on Shopify. And we went in there and just started doing the research. So what were their customers searching for? What were the keywords and the phrases that they were typing into Google? And we built a plan around that. So we understood exactly what those words are and the volume. So how many people each month were searching for those words. The biggest mistake that we make as business owners is we get stuck in our own jargon and we use our own language.
Yeah,
so the thing that you need to get out of is breaking away from that. And yes, look, in the car enthusiast market, there is a lot of jargon that even the customers are searching for, but you want to move away from just focusing on the language you use and use the language that they use. And so by researching that, understanding those keywords, we were able to shape a lot of the content on the website and a lot of the ad copy. And it really resonated with them and really allowed us to connect with those customers.
So can I ask you how you did it? And when you said that, the first thing that comes to my mind is in fashion. I still to this day, like I understand it, but I don't get it. Exactly what you were talking about. Even in the industry, there's a thing called outerwear. Now, outerwear is things like your jackets, your raincoats, like, all the kind of stuff you wear outside of your clothes. And for years, I was just like, what is this outerwear category? And I was clicking on it. I was like, oh, it's coats. Why don't they just call it coats and jackets? Like that just seems like makes so much more sense. But as the retailer, when you go to buy, your suppliers are calling it outerwear. So you're calling it outerwear, but actually your customers are just searching for a pink jacket or a pink winter jacket.
Yeah. So that's spot on, right? And it's understanding the intention behind the words that are used, right? So if someone is searching for how to install my motor, you know that that's someone just doing research. They're looking for information. They might be looking to buy down the track, but they're not at the right place at the right time. Now they're just looking for information. But if they searched for LS1 motor, they've got buyer intent. They know what they want and they're looking to buy it. So by understanding what that mix is, you can find out what that customer is up to in their buying cycle. And then if you have a mix of those words, both research and sort of transactional keywords that we talk about, and it may be descriptive words, they could be brand-related words, and they could be very specific words about what that thing is that they want. You end up connecting with them properly.
So how are we finding these phrases? Because we've talked on this podcast before about things like Google keyword search or answer the public. But how are you, like you're behind the scenes, what kind of tools are you using to really map out? So just to be clear, what we're doing at this point in our research is we're mapping out what are researchy type of terms that people would use, what are transactional type of terms, and was there a third category? I didn't write that one down if there is.
It is more sort of informational. There's navigational as well, which is kind of similar to informational. But yeah, so the transactional and commercial keywords are the ones where they're looking to buy.
And that's really going to help you with your budget too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So
where are we finding these?
Yeah, so we use tools like SEMrush. We use Google's keyword tool as well to understand what those keywords are that people are searching for that we can include within our campaign. We look at tools like Google's trending tool.
Google Trends, we use that a lot, yep.
That's amazing for seasonal businesses, just understanding if I'm going into Christmas and my store is going to be selling more, let's look at some of the mix of the keywords and see which ones are going to be trending highest and which might be the best ones to focus on straight away. So they're the sort of tools that we use. But then we build the plans, we call it the keyword plan, around the themes. So when you're looking at keywords, don't just focus on one keyword or two keywords or three. Look at a keyword and look at all the variations, all the different ways that customers might be searching for that particular word, and then build a topic, build a theme around that, because that's how Google works. That's how, if you're doing a dynamic search ad, they're looking and scanning the site for where that keyword might be mapped to on the site. And so if you've done your research, you know the words that people are searching for around that topic, you've set it up on the right page, whether it's a product page or a category page, then you stand the best chance of Google being able to pick up that page, serve it up when people are searching for those words, and maximize your chance of making sales.
So going back to our is motorsports the correct term? Because that's what I'm calling it, and I have no idea if I'm calling it the wrong thing.
They're literally called Malek's Motorsports.
Okay, great. Okay. I wrote motorsports down in my notes and I'm like, was that just what I was calling it in my head, or is that actually a proper term? Okay, so going back to the motorsports company, can you give us an example of how we would build that theme out? Like, what are we starting with and where are we going from there?
So you've literally got, and I'm talking So your audience who might have a wide, vast variety of different sorts of products that they would sell. Within our mix, we've got, it includes motorsports, we've got safety wear, we've got furniture, outdoor furniture, indoor furniture that we're running campaigns for. Really, you've just got to think from a business point of view. So rather than thinking from search and Google point of view, think from your business's point of view. What are the category of products that you have? And then break it down into those categories and then do your research around those categories. So the way Google works and the way search engines work is it's top down. So you start with the most general representation of your business. So in this case with Malix, it's motorsports car parts. That would describe
that seems obvious, right? Like it's like speak to it like you were speaking to a 5-year-old.
That's it. So that's at the homepage level, if you like. And then breaking it down from there, they'll go, car motors, car accessories, da-da-da. So then you break it down by categories. And then further down from that, another layer down, you look at the individual products because people might be searching for those individual products as well. So that's how we would break it down. And Google does a thing called URL to keyword mapping. So they're mapping your keywords to URLs or sections of your site. And that's how you've got to think hierarchically.
Okay. So we've found the terminology. So back to our motorsports company, let's say they're going to focus on, they've done some analysis and they've worked out that engines, you can tell that this is really my realm of expertise, that engines are the thing that is high margin and kind of medium volume. Is that something that you would suggest that they go after? Or are you looking at high volume, high margin, high volume, low margin? Like, how do you choose? Because like you said, you could have 5,000 SKUs. How do you choose which ones you're going to spend your money on getting in front of people?
So the motorsports client, it was an interesting one because we started with SEO with them before starting with that. We're going to AdWords. And we built up, 10 to 15 times return on investment to the point where we could open up the conversation to talk about other avenues of how we can position them. And then AdWords came into play. And so their line to me was, hey, we need to be making 10 times return on ad spend or it's not worth pursuing because a lot of those products have a lower margin because they've got to go through a supplier in the US to a distributor to them. So there's a lot of people in the supply chain, which means their margin is a lot lower. So they needed to make 10 times that return on ad spend to make it worthwhile. So right now, since we spoke last week, they're sitting on 25 times.
That's amazing. Good work. And that's really important because I think that if we can just move to the side here for a minute, sidebar, which is so many people outsource to an agency, an ads agency, an SEO agency, whatever kind of agency, with no clear expectation of what they want. They just want more sales or more people to the website. But the fact that this company came to you and said, actually looking at our margins on this particular product, if we're going to promote this, we need 10x to make it work. Now that might not be the case for everything, but you're doing 25. Who's going to say no to that?
I mean, with AdWords, some of the metrics you're chasing are the cost per acquisition. So or cost per lead, you might have heard that term. In the sort of the online store world and in the AdWords world, a cost per lead usually is a cost per sale because the conversions that you're tracking, the leads that you're tracking on the website are more often than not successful completions of the shopping cart. And so what you're looking to do is if my product is selling for $100, let's say my margin is $20 and it's costing me $10 per sale or $10 per lead to get that sale, then you're only making $10. So it's not about the $100 that you've sold it for, it's what you're keeping at the end of the day. Because it doesn't make sense if your margin is $20 and it's costing you $30 or $40 to try to get that sale. It's costing you money to try to get those sales, and it's not worthwhile. So you have to understand your products, you have to understand your margins, and then understand that cost per acquisition metric. and try to get that down as much as possible.
Yeah. And I guess that also depends on customer lifetime value. If you've got something that is a recurring, people buy every single month, the amount that you're going to be okay with spending to get that customer would be very different to something like, I was going to say your motorsports company, but I feel like people who buy that stuff buy it very often. But let's just say something you might buy seasonally, once a year. And so you know that you're only getting one sale a year from a customer or 5 sales a year from a customer. And so you have to weigh those two things up very differently, because if you know that your customer lifetime value is X, then you can spend more or less to get your customer. So there are metrics that go into this that I think a lot of people forget to put forward, but I also think a lot of agencies forget to ask. And I think that is where people come unstuck.
The conversations we have, as I'm sure you have with your customers, your audiences, and those businesses, is more business oriented rather than marketing or search or Google oriented. So understanding their business, understanding the mix of the products that they have, how much money they're actually making and keeping at the end of the day, really informs the campaign. So you have to have those conversations first, be part of their business, understand what they're trying to achieve before you can build the campaigns. It's not a one size fits all.
I've got some more specific questions, but before we get in, if we can just stay with the motorsports company for now. You went from 10x when we were speaking a couple of weeks ago to, I think you were sitting on something like 18 when we spoke last week, and now we're at 25. Can you tell me what you've done to get them from 10 to 25%?
It's so campaigns learn, right? So we don't use automated tools or anything like that. We do use Google's dynamic sort of machine learning campaigns, but that's a portion of our campaigns. So those campaigns, they're called performance max campaigns, and they tend to dynamically create the ads and find people that are in market. So if people have shown an intention or they've searched for a particular word, then it'll serve up those ads for them. We're learning, so we're using that to inform our sort of manual static search ads that we've created, and we're finding where the conversions are coming from. So if in a particular keyword we find that we've made a sale, then...
Yay. I like the way you light up when you say that. If you're watching the video, awesome. Raj is like sits up and he's got a big smile on his face.
It informs you and you get excited, right? Because you go, amazing, I've made a sale. But more importantly, I've made a sale from this ad group, from that keyword. And then what happens is the following week, you allocate a bit more of the budget towards that. And so it's very hands-on the way we manage our ads. And so as a result, you'll find week 1 versus week 4, month 1 versus month 4 is very different. And even for the same budget, if you're doing it properly and you're keeping an eye on the performance and you're understanding the sort of the metrics and getting insight from that data, you can really inform the campaign and perform better and better and better as you go along.
And I think this is a really important thing to take away, and not to dismiss people doing things themselves. Like it is always great to jump in and at least have a go, so you have an understanding of the systems, the tech, the kind of the jargon that you might be looking at, the reports you might be looking at. But you also have to appreciate that doing ads of whatever, I don't care which platform it is, having run and owned an ads agency, I can say this with hand on heart, and I'm sure you can too, which is it's not a dibble-dabble kind of thing. If you are going to jump in and start running ads, you have to put aside a good chunk. I used to put aside a half a day if I was going in to start new ads campaigns, because by the time you get through your head, like you've looked at the analysis, you get through your head what you've mapped out what you want to do, you start allocating budgets, then you've got the creatives and you've got the copy, and that stuff isn't done in 5 minutes. And so I think this is one of the other places that people get tripped up, is they think they can set and forget. Like they might set up their Google Shopping and then, they get a few they get a few sales, and then they kind of think, oh, that's great, I'll just let it keep doing what it has to do.
The challenge also there, Selena, is that you have to deal with the psychology of sort of advertising and your own brand. More often than not, someone that is managing their own campaigns for their own business is too close to the problem and they're too emotional. So that what they end up doing is they do whatever it takes to be number one. And sometimes that's not where you want to be. So you don't want to be at the top of the Google Ads, bidding the highest cost per click to be in that position, because oftentimes the difference between being number one and number two is huge. And so if you're paying orders of magnitude more to be in that number one position, you're using up your budget a lot quicker. And so quite often, if you're managing yourself and you don't know what you're doing and you're kind of learning on the job, so to speak, it can be very, very costly. You're better off just going and getting a Google certification first for nothing, or paying very little, and learning it properly before you sort of dibble dabble, or outsource it to someone that does it every day. And
there are people at different budgets where it makes sense to do one and sense to the other. But I think what we're both trying to say here is it's something you have to commit to, not just something that you set and forget, which leads me perfectly to my conversation around, you mentioned Google Performance Max earlier. I am a huge advocate, and please feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, of Google Shopping, because I buy so much online. And I will, like, my daughter was looking for a pink leotard the other day. So like an adult, because she's a grown up, pink leotard. And that's the first thing I searched for. I do not have time to be opening every single dancewear website to see if they have what she has. Like, I just typed in, size 8, women's pink leotard, Google Shopping, showed it to her. And then she was like, well, they don't work in sizes, but that's beside the point. I kind of feel that if you are in retail or e-commerce and you are not on Google Shopping, you are doing yourself a disservice. Please feel free to jump in and tell me I am wrong.
I wish I could. You're not. So people need to understand that Google Shopping and Google Search are two different things. So your Google Ads account doesn't automatically put you onto Google Shopping. So the Google Ads account allows you to create the text ads. You can even do display banner ads that shows up on different sites. But the Google Shopping is basically the Google Merchant account. So you've got to set up a Google Merchant account and run it on there. I love Google Shopping simply because it's a lower cost per click. It's right there. It's very visual.
It's intent.
It's very much intent. So you show up for those products that people are searching for. And you tend to get a higher return on ad spend through shopping than what you do with text ads. Some of the drawbacks include the fact that you can't really position the product, so you can't really sell the value. You can't write a description or have the promotion. You can have like discount promotions on there, but it's very transactional. It's very much a commodity. So it's your product versus your competitor's product right next to each other with a price underneath. And sometimes maybe a discount offer in there. That's the only drawback, but within a mix of a greater AdWords Google search strategy, it's absolutely awesome. And it allows you to just upload a product feed to the Google Merchant account, and then you get going. Google Shopping is part of the Motorsport Clients campaign, and that's part of what's allowing them to get 25x return.
That's awesome. So we have the Google search is going to be those more text and banners that we might see if we go to like a news website or any of those clickbaity type websites that run on ads. You're going to see them over there. And then we have Google Shopping. So what is Performance Max?
So Performance Max is essentially Google's machine learning tool. It allows you to create dynamic ads and serve them up dynamically. So you basically tell Google, these are the topics, these are the products and services that I'm putting out there, and you broadly design it, but then it actually dynamically picks up the pages within the site to map to those products and services and to those keywords. So unlike the traditional standard search ads where you say, I want this, and this keyword mapped to this page with this ad copy, Performance Max is more dynamic. The beauty of it and why it's important to include in the mix is it learns really quickly. It's AI, essentially, and AI is here to stay. I don't know if your audience are afraid of AI.
Oh, I don't know. We talk a lot about it. I have done inside of our 5X framework and inside of Scale Your Store, I've shown some of the things that are out there for AI, but we actually use AI quite a bit in our business. And, there's pros and there's cons. But for us at the moment, the pros far outweigh the cons, and the customer experience that comes as a result and the learnings that we get from it make a huge difference. So, I mean, the fact is it's here to stay. It's only going to get better and better and better. So I think we have to embrace the fact that it's not always going to be right, but it's something we need to think about.
And look, my favorite part of the Performance Max campaigns is, as I said before, the intent. So it's basically, they call it sort of the affinity sort of intention. If someone is in market, someone is showing intention that they're looking for a product or they're researching a product, if someone is in a particular area, so if you've got a service area and that customer has explored things within that area or that regional sort of coverage, you can serve up your ads to them. They're very dynamic and it learns really quickly from there. So it's an awesome sort of Google AdWord strategy to include within the overall plan and mix.
So would it happen that if your product is out of stock, Google could still end up mapping to that product and therefore you're losing money or wasting money?
Potentially, yeah. So it's up to you as the store owner to make sure that everything is up to date. And if something is, you've run out and you don't want to be selling something, you've got to take it out. So you've got to take it out of the mix. Right. That's why everything to do with AdWords is so hands-on. Like you've got to be on top of it. Otherwise, you could absolutely be earning money.
But you could also be making 25x ROAS, which is great. So if people are trying to maybe think about jumping into the whole Google stratosphere, or if they have been there and kind of felt like they got a little bit burnt, where would you suggest they start?
Okay, start with your website. Where our philosophy when it comes to AdWords, when it comes to Google search, is take a holistic view. So don't throw money at the problem. Don't think that Google Ads are the silver bullet and are going to be the solution to all your problems and are going to just magically increase your sales. Part of how we achieved the 25 times ROAS with the motorsports client is we fixed up their navigation. So they had a horrendous menu at the top that was cluttered and it was hard to navigate. We fixed it up and we cleaned it, and now it's so much easier to find the categories and the products. So things like your UX, so user experience on the website, and the navigation, where your products are laid out. So sometimes we find shop owners have a massive description with a big banner and the products are all the way down the bottom.
Because they read somewhere that it's good for SEO.
Correct, right? So then we say, hey, let me prove something to you. And this is an awesome tool that I recommend to everyone listening. Hotjar. Mm-hmm. Download Hotjar and install it on your website and let it run for a couple of weeks. Essentially what it does is it heat maps your website. So it records every session that comes on your website. And as every user is going through and clicking and moving the mouse, it follows them. And it creates a heat map for you for the most popular sections of the site. So we had a furniture client a few years ago where we installed Hotjar on there, and she had a button in the menu called clearance. And that was the most popular section on the homepage. So what we recommended to her was, why don't we move all the products out of the clearance page and put it on the homepage? We did that, and that increased her sales tremendously with just that simple move. Didn't touch the ad budget, didn't change that. It just shot her sales through the roof because that's what people were looking for.
Yeah, that's so important. And in fact, it's funny you say that because I just got off a call before this with our marketing people, and that was one of the things they just said about my website was, as someone fresh to the website, They didn't think they could navigate it well. And what I would say there is when we've done research in the past, this is what we ended up with, but things change. The way people shop change, post-COVID, we're more savvy online shoppers. So what worked 2 years ago doesn't necessarily work now. And so I was like, okay, well, let's work out what we need to change it to.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's exactly right. And so take a holistic view. How quickly is your website loading? Are your images too big? Are they the wrong formats? If your website is loading slowly, then people might bounce away and look for someone else. The market can be very, very fickle. If, like you said before, if you don't have stock, if the inventory is not there, they're going to look elsewhere. So look at everything. Look at the website itself. Start the campaign. So really understand. So like I said before, look at tools like SEMrush or Google's keyword tool. They've got a free keyword tool inside the AdWord account. Start doing some research. Map out those keywords against your products, and just really, look at your competitors. Look at what they're doing. Like if you're in the same space as someone that does exactly the same as what you do, look at what's working for them. SEMrush.
They're not advertising. Sorry, I just have to jump in here. We were talking with one of our clients the other day, and she is one of three or four stores in the whole of Australia who sell this particular brand. And only one competitor showed up for this brand. And I'm like, why are you not leveraging the bejesus out of that? Because you literally have one person and you have three competitors in the whole of Australia, and you only have one other person who's advertising. Like, throw some budget into that.
That's it. And so SEMrush has this amazing feature called the keyword gap tool. Ooh. So what you do is you pick your website. So you put your website in there, pick 3 or 4 other competitor websites. Ideally, a couple of them should have a strong presence on Google, and then let that run. And what it does is it kind of creates these circles of keywords that they cover, that they're advertising for, that they're being found for, and then it shows you the overlap, which ones are similar to others, and then you can kind of see what you're missing out on. But pick competitors that obviously sell the same products that you do, so that then you can see what you're missing out on and what you could potentially include in your mix. So it gives you a lot of inspiration for what to target.
That sounds amazing. And then when you combine that with looking at your website and then even going back to looking at the margins you have on products and the volume that you're selling, then you can kind of put it all together and build out a much more holistic plan rather than just connecting up your feed and crossing your fingers and hoping that you get some sales.
Yeah, it's not hope marketing. There's got to be intent.
Yeah. I just want to quickly jump in and ask you about budget. Like, realistically, like I always say to people, you would probably vomit if you knew how much I spent on ads. But realistically, what can you start out with just to make sure, like, what is a realistic starting out budget, whether you're doing this yourself or whether you're working with an agency? So excluding agency fees, but in terms of ad spend, what would a retail or e-commerce store have to be spending each month to get a really good idea as to whether Google Ads is the right platform for them?
Yep, that's a good question. And my response is, how long's a piece of string? Every industry is different. Every niche has a different average cost per click. So one of the ways that you can work out what you should be spending is build up your keywords. So use SEMrush. SEMrush also gives you your CPC per keyword, so you can work out what your average cost per click is. Really what you're after is to get as much of the, we call in the industry, impression share as possible. So if you have, let's say, an average cost per click of $5 for each keyword on average, and let's say you set a budget of $10 a day, then you've got to keep in mind that you're going to use up your budget within 2 clicks.
Yep.
So the argument that I present is, if a potential customer of yours comes on your website in the morning and they've clicked your ad, they've come to your website, inevitably they might leave. So for whatever reason,
we hardly ever buy on the first click, right? Like we look at competitors, we come back, we see if they've got this size in stock, we see if Have they got anything else so I can qualify for free shipping?
Look
No one
around,
wants
you
to
look at
pay for
reviews,
shipping.
or the boss walks in and
Yep.
you close
Or
your browser.
or the kids walk in and want some dinner.
That's it. And then you log on again later in the afternoon, and if that advertiser's budget had run out, then and that advertiser doesn't have a strong organic presence or any social presence or what have you, and that customer has logged on to Google, then they're not going to see you. They're going to look at your competitor or whoever else is there. So the idea is that you want to be present for as long as possible within that day, so that person who may have come back to your site a couple of times has the best chance possible of converting to a sale. I'm kind of answering your question in a roundabout way. With the motorsports guys, we're spending about $1,000 a month.
Is that all? I thought you were going to say $1,000 a day.
$1,000 to start. We only literally started a few weeks ago. So $1,000 to start, but they're doing it very strategically in that they've said, we just want to focus on these products. We worked out what the average CPC was and how much that they would need to spend to get the most bang for buck. And they're getting that, obviously. Now they're saying, okay, we want to introduce this line of products and this line of products and this line of products. And so they'll increase their spend, but we're doing it very considered. So that's the other thing as well, is work out what you need to spend as a minimum to be able to serve up your ad as much as possible, and then test it, get the sales from it, get the return, and then expand and reinvest, rather than going in there and saying, okay, I'm going to spend $10,000 a month straight away.
Yeah, I think that's very sage advice. Is if you only have, especially if you only have a small budget or you just want to test it out, is don't test everything, because it is that spray and pray. Everything gets diluted. Like choose those. Do this research that you've just said and put together a core group or a core category of products that you think you could actually get a return on. And so just to be clear, some people may not be familiar with the term ROAS. It's return on ad spend. So that means your motorsports company is spending $1,000 and making $25,000 worth of sales. So that's what we mean when we're talking about return on ad spend. For every dollar that they're spending, they're getting a 25 times return. So $25 for every $1, which we would do all day, every day.
Certainly.
Raj, this has been fantastic. I've actually taken a page full of notes here. So I always think that this is a great interview if I'm sitting here with a page full of notes. The resources that you've given us are fantastic. I've got SEMrush, we've got the keyword tool, this keyword gap tool. I am dying to get in and not that I run my own ads these days, but just kind of jump in and see where those gaps are. That even just for me for content, like I know that's not everybody, but for me for content, it's like, where are these gaps? Because if there are gaps, then I can not only create a product for it, but there's an opportunity there. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. If people are thinking this guy knows what he talks about and I want some of that 25x return on ad spend, where can they get in touch with you?
So our company is WebEagles, webeagles.com.au. Yeah, to jump on, send us a note or give us a call.
Awesome. And you work with people all over the world, not just in Australia, just to be correct.
We've got clients in Europe, US, New Zealand, all over.
I love that, because if people in the US just go, oh my gosh, my money goes so much further.
The conversion rate is amazing for everyone in the US.
We'll just put that money into ad spend instead. Raj, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And I'm excited to go in and learn some new things about the keyword gap tool.
My pleasure.
So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSelena and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently, or gave you some inspiration, or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.